This episode is brought to you by Progressive. Most of you aren't just listening right now. You're driving, cleaning, and even exercising. But what if you could be saving money by switching to Progressive? Drivers who save by switching save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.
You know what it is. That's right. It's time to talk money with your money nerd and financial coach. Now, tighten those purse strings and open those ears. It's the Money Talk with Tiff podcast.
Hey everyone, I am so excited because I have Elyse Archer on the line, and Elyse is here to talk to us about sales. Now, I know you're like Tiffany. We talk about sales on this podcast quite often. Well, not really, but we've talked about it a few times. But Elyse has a different point of view when it comes to sales, and I don't feel like as entrepreneurs we can talk about sales enough because we all want to make money. So hey Elyse, how are you?
Hi, Tiffany. I am so excited to be here. This is going to be fun. And I think whether someone feels like sales is a dirty word, they've got a lot of resistance to it or not, we're going to talk today about how to make more money and how to grow your money and your sales. And I think all of us want that. So I'm here for it. Let's do it.
Yes, we always want the coins as business owners. So let's hop right into it. There's a term that you use, superhuman selling. And I just wanted to start there. Like, what is superhuman selling? What does that even mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it was derived from my own experience of going from being stuck at the same income level for over 10 years, first in corporate and then as an entrepreneur. Feeling like I always had to work, struggle, hustle, grind for money, to discovering something that when I discovered it, I turned my annual income into my monthly income in 6 weeks. And I actually worked less during that time. And I know that may sound crazy. It felt crazy. Like it happened so fast that it felt crazy, especially with how long I'd felt stuck. But to me, so that actually became the foundation for what we teach in our coaching and our curriculums. Superhuman selling is when we do things that many people would say are uncommon, when we quantum leap, when we go from A to Z versus A to B to C. And so there's a methodology that kind of downloaded afterwards of how did this happen? And I'm happy to go into it deeper. We call it the 4 quadrants of quantum sales growth. But it's a methodology that I use and that we use in our community for people to achieve what a lot of people would say are uncommon goals, which I know you've got a beautiful, diverse community, and you and I were connecting before the call about both being moms. So I'll just speak right now to really to everyone, and especially to moms and parents out there. I think that when we are committed to running a successful business and bringing in the amount of money we want to bring in, the conventional wisdom, quote, I'm using air quotes, although you can't see it, the conventional thinking of I've got to grind, I've got to hustle, I've got to work, 10, 15, 20 hours a day to make the money I want to make. That doesn't fit for us. That doesn't work for us if we want to be present in our lives, be there with our kids or our family or our loved ones, or even just with ourselves, and simultaneously make great money. And so there is another way. And so please take that wherever you want to go with it. But that is superhuman selling to me.
Now, you already know my brain is over here going a mile a minute. So first, I want to acknowledge that, yes, myself, I also started getting out of that grind culture, hustle culture, because back in 2020, I was featured on CNBC because I had like 6 different businesses running at the same time. And yes, I was making a lot of money, but I was miserable. I'm just going to be honest. I was miserable. I had no life. And I was just like, I got to hustle because it's COVID, Money Talk with Tiff. I'm not able to speak like I was doing. So I got to do something in order to make that money. And it wasn't until I would say probably about a year or so later where I just started sitting back more, and then realized I started making more. But I will say that number that you didn't give me a number, but that figure that you just gave me when you said you were making your annual salary in 6 weeks, I definitely want to hear more about that. So tell us more about the 4 quadrants.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and one thing that I'll say, and so just for context, so it was a 6-figure annual income that I was making, and I started having 100K months.
That's amazing.
And so, yeah, it was fun. I thought that it had to be a lot harder. And what I realized is the first step, and I'll be happy to speak to the 4 quadrants in just a minute. But what I want to say with kind of the energy that prompted it, because that really is what calls it in. It was a decision. It was a decision to stop playing small. And there were a lot of different factors that came into play at the time, which I'm not going to go into all of it just for the sake of the length of the podcast. But I had for a long time had things on my vision board. And I think just even for everyone listening, you can think about this. Like, what are the things that you've been saying for a long time you want them that are on your vision board? Maybe it's a certain type of home, a certain type of car. Maybe it's a 7-figure, 8-figure billion-dollar business. Maybe it's to retire your partner from their job so they can pursue their dream. And I had things like that on my vision board for years, wanting those things, looking at what other people were doing, whether it was speaking on stages or running a 7-figure business or, being a published author. And for so long in my life, I would watch other people doing those things and live a life that was good in many standpoints, but where I wasn't being the star of my own movie. And I was kind of sitting back and saying, well, other people can do those things because fill in the blanks. Their parents were more supportive. They've got the training, they've got the resources, et cetera. And there was a time in my life about close to 5 years ago where I had a couple of scenarios happen and a friend who was close to me pass away at age 39 as well, where I realized that I was waiting for someone outside of me to come tell me that I was good enough to have those things or that it was time. And I was waiting literally for someone to come give me permission to be powerful. We actually wrote a book called Permission to Be Powerful as a Community, because that's kind of that wake-up call that you have when you realize no one is coming to tell you that you're good enough to go earn the amount of money you want to earn. No one is going to come tell you that you're good enough to go launch the program, speak on the stages, do the things. And if you're waiting for external validation, or if you're waiting for your money to shift for you to start saying, oh, now I'm abundant, now I feel prosperous, you've got it backwards. It has to be an energetic decision first. So I decided, I made a conscious choice that I was done playing small. I was done living so much of my life in anxiety about money. That was the other thing that I didn't share before, but over the course of the 10 years where I was stuck, I had constant anxiety about money. I was making 6 figures. It wasn't bad money, but I was always in anxiety when if I had a good month, I'd say, oh, can I do it again? When it was time to close a sale or a client, I would feel really nervous and I would feel unworthy. And so I realized how much of my energy was consumed with lack, scarcity, fear-based thinking. And I decided that it was time to change. And Bob Proctor talked about this. I love this. He talked about every goal that you have, you're trading your life for it. So stop asking if you're worthy of your goals and start asking, are my goals worthy of trading my life for? And so I made an emphatic decision to change. I said, I'll do whatever it takes to get out of my comfort zone to finally stop kind of putting my life on layaway like I'd been doing. And part of that involved getting radically uncomfortable financially, investing $50,000 in coaching that frankly I didn't have. And maybe that's a faux pas to say on the show. I don't know, but here's what I know with money and with all things in life. Like when something is a must for us, we find a way. And I knew that I had to get out of my comfort zone and face every limiting belief I'd ever had about money, about my self-worth, about what was possible for me. And so in that experience, so again, I invested $50,000 in coaching for a wonderful woman to help me kind of shift my mindset around money and my business. And in that experience, I had no choice but to look at every limiting belief I'd ever held. And I realized in the process that I had been doing a lot of the right things for the past 10 years, but my mindset around money wasn't right. I didn't feel worthy of receiving more. I felt nervous. I felt scared. I had constricted energy. So I went down the deep end of studying neuroscience, the power of the subconscious mind and our money beliefs. I studied things like the energetics of money, even like the spirituality of money. And I built a new identity as a 7-figure plus earner. And I was a new mom at the time. So I built a new identity of a woman who could be a mom of a young baby and make $1 million. And I started showing up differently. And I put myself out there differently on social media from that place, launched a new program. And that was the experience that led to the quantum leap and 10xing my income. But these 4 quadrants that I just kind of downloaded afterwards, this was the how, and we call them the 4 quadrants of quantum sales growth. And I'm more than happy to share a free training link at the end so people can get a visual of it, because it's a little easier sometimes when you can have a visual. But there's these four quadrants that when you learn how to apply them will quantum leap your money. So I'll just pause before I go into them. Is there anything you want me to expand on from what I just shared, or would you like me to go right into the 4 quadrants? I do want you to go right in, but I do want to pause for a minute because what you said was so powerful. From, I think you said Bob Proctor, was you trade your life for your goals. And I know, just, talking with people all the time about goal setting and things like that, a lot of distractions and stuff can get in the way of those goals. And so I feel like having the right goals and staying focused on them, and realizing that this is your life, that, it kind of reminds me of the book, Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. Like, you trade your life, your time, because we only have a certain amount of time for these things that you want. And so how important are those things to you? So I just wanted to pause for that real quick, but I do want to get into the quadrants because I'm over here with my notepad ready. I love it. And just a beautiful reflection and a powerful reflection from what you shared. And I think when we remember that, and when we have that perspective shift of, oh my gosh, like how often do we say, I want this house or I want this car, but energetically we don't feel worthy of it. You won't get it from that state, or you'll get it and then you won't hold it because you're not a match for it. And so when you shift the focus to say, oh my gosh, every goal I'm going for, I'm trading my life for it. What would be worthy of trading my life for? It's a big energy shift, and you'll bring in a lot more money in sales. You'll bring in the how, right? Money itself isn't the vision. It's the how of your vision. You'll bring it in a much easier way when you're focusing on creating money from that energy. So the 4 quadrants. So if someone is like you with pen and paper in hand, which I love, I would draw a box. And then I would divide it into 4 sections. So just, a line down the middle vertically, and then a line across horizontally. And this is the visual for the 4 quadrants. So we also call them the 4 M's. So they all start with an M, which makes it a little easier to remember. The first quadrant is mind over matter. Now, when I say mind over matter, what do most people think of? They think like push through, right? Just make it happen. Doesn't matter how you feel. And what I actually mean by this is how your mind, your belief systems influence and shape the physical 3D matter in your life. And so one of the things that I've learned to be true is that your results will never supersede your identity. So if someone is listening to this show and maybe they're like I was and they're currently earning 6 figures and they want to go to 7, for example, you have to create the identity of who are you as a 7-figure earner. And there's a framework we call new personality, old personality. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this. He says your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is comprised of your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors. So if you want to get a new personal reality, maybe you want to have the personal reality of now being a 7-figure earner, a multimillionaire, a billionaire, you actually have to create a new personality of who are you at that level. And it's not about faking it till you make it. It's not about even acting as if so much. To me, this is more about stripping away the limiting beliefs that you've bought into over the years, that you're not worthy, or that you have to grind and hustle for money, or money is hard to make, or you can't have money and have love, all of those limiting beliefs that restrict us and hold us back from making the amount of money we want to make. You have to build the identity of who am I at this level, but it ends up being like the truest, purest expression of you in your full potential. So one of the things that I would invite people to play with is when I am the fullness of who I am, when I am the fullness of who I came here on this planet to be, who am I? What is his or her identity? How do I think? How do I feel? How do I operate? And you start playing with that and crafting that identity. And then there's a lot of systems and tools out there that people can use to rewire their belief systems. But if someone is not familiar, the power of this is that your subconscious mind, once you get it to accept a new belief, i.e., I am a 7-figure earner, I am a multimillionaire. And again, there's a lot of processes you can use to get it to accept the belief. But once we do that, there's actually a filter in your mind, in your brain, the reticular activating system, that's going to go to work looking for circumstances, people, opportunities that you can move towards that will help you move it from just a vision in your mind into a physical reality. So you have to first create the identity of who you want to become if you want to experience it. The second quadrant is money. That's why I love this show. I love what you're doing. I think this work is so important. And I love money. I love talking about money. I think it's so important. And so many of us have a lot of limiting money beliefs. So again, I love what you're doing here because I think you're helping people build such a beautiful, healthy relationship with money that's supportive to them. So there's a lot we could talk about in this quadrant, but this is basically saying, hey, whatever amount of money is going to support and fuel your dream life, your vision, that is a frequency. There's an energy to that. So we want to look at, are there any limiting beliefs you're holding on to that would stop you from aligning with that amount, i.e., it has to be hard to make, i.e., rich people are greedy. Money is just energy. Money is just an amplifier. I'm sure you talk about this, but money, you can it's just a tool. So think about it like a knife, right? A knife in the hands of a murderer is going to create results that are not good, right? However, a knife in the hands of a 5-star chef can create a beautiful meal for a family to share. So each of your listeners, I know, has maybe some are more clear than others, but there's a vision, there's a calling, there's something they want to do that's good in the world, whether it's for their nuclear family or for the larger world. And you need to have money to be able to do that. So healing your relationship with money is key. Third quadrant is masculine and feminine energy. Now, when I first heard the concept, I came from a really male-dominated work environment. I thought, this is craziness. Like, what are you talking about? How is this going to make a difference in my life? And here's what I'll say to keep it very brief is we all have both types of energy. Masculine energy is structure, support, systems, action. It's goal-oriented. Feminine energy is receiving, flow, quantum leaping, vision, pleasure, enjoying the process. It's about the journey. When I was stuck at the same level for 10 years, I was operating almost entirely in masculine energy and I didn't realize it. If anyone who's listening to this is feeling burnt out, stressed, depleted, exhausted, maybe you're pouring into your family, your kids, your household, your business, and you're feeling like, I got nothing left to give, you're way in masculine energy. You're not going to quantum leap from masculine energy. It's too logical, too linear, and you're not open to receiving from that space. So you got to learn how to infuse the feminine, which is fun, play, pleasure, go where you're wanted, not where you're needed. If something's feeling heavy, you set it down, come back to it from a place of feeling restored. That's the feminine. So we quantum leap from feminine energy, not masculine. And then the final quadrant, the fourth M, is method. So this is the strategy. This is the tactics. This is what are the actions that you're taking. And I've had a fun career for about 2 decades of coaching and training and working with some of the most elite entrepreneurs and sales leaders literally in the world. And there's a lot of strategies out there that work. And here's the thing with strategy. Any strategy can work. It's your belief in the strategy. And it's the first 3 that we just talked about that really are going to make the difference to you. So according to neuroscience, 95 to 98% of our results come from our identity and our subconscious beliefs. It's only 3 to 5% of the action that you're taking that drives your results. So this is why method matters, strategy matters. We do get to take action towards our goals. And I love teaching that. And we want to build it on a foundation of those first 3. Just like if you want to build a skyscraper, you got to have a deep foundation that they can grow on. And this is where I think a lot of people feel like they're taking a lot of action, but not moving the needle towards their goals. So we call those first 3 the big 3 because they're responsible for so much of your success. And then method is the 4th, still important, but you got to layer it on top of the big three in order to really have a quantum leap and move the needle.
So much to take in there. So much to take in there. I was like every quadrant you were saying, I was like, yep. Like, I'm glad you all can't see me because you'll probably be like, Tiffany's head is about to bob off. But one of the things I do want to hit on, because that is something that I know and I experience, is the masculine versus feminine energy. And I know for a fact, like I've known this for years, that I operate very much in the masculine energy. I say it all the time because I'm also one of those people that doesn't like asking for help or having people help me with different things and, so on and so forth. And one thing that I've learned as a business owner is you have to have help, because you don't see all the Fortune 500 CEOs doing everything. They're in charge of doing the big picture things. They give the goals, or they help facilitate the goal setting of the company, and they're the visionaries, and then they have other people that help them do things. And even though now I have people that, I'm more open to help and I have people that help me, I'm still operating too much in the masculine. And that's just a self-reflection that I've, as you were talking, I was just reflecting, and that's something that I realized as well. So I love that you brought it up and you put it that way, because as business owners, and especially as women in any industry really that we're in as business owners, we're kind of forced into the masculine a lot, and unless we step back and go back into some of that feminine energy. So thank you so much for bringing that up. And then of course, the money thing, that always speaks to me and my audience. And we've talked about, the stories that you tell yourself and, things of that nature. So I'm glad that that's part of the quadrants. It just sounds like this was very well thought out, and I am definitely going to run this episode back so that way I can have further reflection on all of these different things that you talked about. So while we're talking about that, because I know we don't want to give it all away here on the podcast, so where could people find out more about the quadrants, or more about you if they're interested in learning more about you?
Thank you so much for asking. I love your reflection on that. And I think that's the sign of a powerful thought leader, is someone who can hear these things and say, oh yeah, I'm aware of this one. I'm aware I can grow in this. And I'm always working on growing in these myself too. So thank you for that. So yes, absolutely. I would say there's two great places to connect. Obviously, I'm at Elyse Archer on all social. But if someone wants to go deeper into the content, our podcast, Superhuman Selling, is a great way to learn more, to go deeper. And then we do also have a much deeper dive training in the 4 quadrants. So that's ElyseArcher.com/4quadrants, where someone can go get a mini course. Anyone can go get a mini course on these 4 quadrants and really learn how to embody them and how to apply them as well. So ElyseArcher.com/4quadrants is a great place to start.
Thank you. And I'll make sure I have all of those links in the show notes for our audience. And I know I'm going to go ahead and subscribe right now to your podcast, so that way I can learn more about this and, be that person that I know that I was destined to be, without letting my mind, my money, and all of these other things get in the way. So yeah, I'm definitely in.
I love it.
So thank you so much, Elyse, for coming on the show today. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too, Tiffany. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Thank you for listening, joining, and being a part of the Money Talk with Tiff podcast this week. You can check Tiff out every Thursday for a new Money Talk podcast. But if you just can't wait until next week, you can listen to previous podcast episodes at moneytalkwitht.com, or follow Tiff on all social media platforms at Money Talk with T. Until next time, spend wise by spending less than you make. A word to the money wise is always sufficient.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive. Most of you aren't just listening right now. You're driving, cleaning, and even exercising. But what if you could be saving money by switching to Progressive? Drivers who save by switching save nearly $750 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Multitask right now. Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $744 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2022 and May 2023. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations.